This conference will now be recorded.
Are you getting it?
Okay, let's go ahead and call this meeting open. Do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So let's go ahead and go to minute review. Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Hold on the minutes where it says comments in favor of the conditional use permit, reference height concerns from the community. The height concern is to deal with the chart, and what is it, 11-1-4? That's not in conjunction with the conditional use permit. It's a separate.
Okay. You mentioned it right after.
Yeah. So I just don't want it to think that the conditional use permit references it's in favor of amending the conditional use permit and then the yard height setback chart. So if you want to put height concerns, for amending the conditional use permit and then and the yard height setback charts. Please, just so it's clearly. And then just a typo under Robert's asked Sprout, it would be asked what annexations, just to add the word what. Please. Thank you.
Anything else on that? Please get everything you're looking at. Okay, call the vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to public comment on non-agenda matters. Go ahead.
Hey, I just have a quick question. This is for Lisa. And correct me if I'm wrong, so I'm gonna bring this up. The money that was taken from Public Works to fund an attorney, how will that be paid back?
I don't know what you're asking.
It was set up to be paid back annually at budget time.
From where?
It would come from general fund.
Okay, so how much
it
was
set
borrowed?
up for over 5 years.
Okay, so how much was borrowed?
25,000.
Okay.
Any other non-agenda items? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the North 40 Phase 6 final plat review and vote to approve or disapprove. Hey Josh, you want to give us a little background, please? Thanks.
You bet. So we had the preliminary plat meeting in August, I think. And at that time, we set out some conditions.
You need any of that?
And basically, at this point, if you deem that we have met all those conditions, basically what the purpose of the meeting is, at this point, is to make sure that I've checked off all the right boxes and have everything accounted for properly.
It's an Amber Alert.
There's applause. So I think the biggest thing that people have questions about is that all the utility work is not done right now and the road is not quite finished paved. We've still got a few patches left to do. In that application, you do have a subdivision improvement agreement and a letter of credit from Madison Valley Bank to cover the cost of those, actually more than cover the cost of those, because we've done a fair bit of work since we had the letter of credit issued and prepared that. So I think everything else is pretty straightforward. Just an update, we're paving today and should finish Woodrow Ave tomorrow. We just finally got all the materials we needed to get the water and sewer stuffs done, so hopefully that'll be done within a month. And the power and phone are scheduled to go in mid-December. So that's kind of where everything's at. Construction-wise, the survey crew has been here and done. They have all the pins in the ground. So I think that's really the bulk of the physical work that needs to be done. Does anyone have any questions on? Yes, sir.
I went through the book today.
Okay.
And I was trying to find out on your map here, what are your park areas on the map?
Well, the park areas are, as we discussed last time, are the existing parks that we have. So we have. You said you donated the land for the park that's next to the city hall. Is that right? This one behind us, what are you talking about? Yeah. But I was trying to figure out where you have locations for a small park for the development. That's what threw me off a little bit. I thought the other way. Okay. I'm wrong. So park here, John. Okay. Now, wait. That says park. That's a roundabout there? Correct.
No way.
So John, this is all platted. This is not something that we can change at any point right now.
Well, I've been stickler on it from the beginning. The park has to be in a safe area, and that's not a safe area for kids to walk to.
John, there's also several other parks here.
Well, that's what I wanted to find out.
Yeah, so there's a park here. Just south of Lot 6.
Okay, all right.
And there's also a park here.
Okay. All right, I went out and saw this, sir. I'm good with that.
Okay.
But I just didn't want anything in a roundabout. Nothing. If you're gonna do anything in a roundabout, you wanna put trees in and one, that's fine, but it's not a place for kids.
Agreed.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Any other questions for Josh?
So Eric, when I was in here the other day, you guys were discussing something in the contract that stated 4 years, like you'll have the paving done in 4 years or completed.
That's the term, that's the standard term for the subdivision improvement agreement, is the 4 years, because you technically have 4 years from preliminary plat approval to get your final plat approval. So that's why that term is in there. I don't have any intention of taking 4 years to do it. I wish it was all done now. And if we've been able to get everything we ordered on time, I think we would be, but it's just kind of the nature of everything right now is to be delayed. So we're no different than anybody else in that regard.
Cost of materials.
Yes, it did.
So that's 5 years is standard for everybody. I'd say that's.
Yeah, so basically once you get your preliminary plat, some people don't always want to rush to get the final plat done and get it approved. So the reason they have that limit in there is because that's how state statute reads for the time limit you have from preliminary plat approval to final plat approval.
Any one of you, the rest of you have a comment on, or to Josh?
vegetation, that'll probably happen in the spring, right? That number
Yeah,
12, okay.
yeah, we'll put some
Everything else is on.
native seed out there.
And then there was the number 19 that we had amended. It was something to do with the conduization of the preliminary plat, you know.
Yeah,
that was taken care of.
I think what we determined on that is if someone wanted to have condominium, they would bring their condo docs to the town
Yeah,
to get their building permit, so. So I didn't include anything in that. For that regard. But I will add that to my disclosure video.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
okay.
Any other questions for Josh? We got a motion?
Move to approve North 40 Phase 6 final plat.
Second. Okay, any more discussion here? More discussion? Are you good, Kristen? Okay, call the vote, Kristen.
Aye.
Aye.
So, this is James Greenbaum, your town attorney. I just wanted to suggest that in your motion to approve, you might want to include some findings of fact in support of your motion.
Do you wanna?
I don't know if you have a staff report that has, a summary of what you're actually adopting. Maybe the
Yes, we
applicant's
do.
attorney can help you or assist you with providing some findings of fact. I haven't heard any discussion of how the final plat meets your code requirements in any manner whatsoever. So I think those are like essential findings that you have to make, how it achieves the goals and purposes of your town code, and, maybe make reference to those applicable provisions.
Then we actually have the findings of fact and everything right here in our packet in front of us.
It came with, that was adopted with the preliminary plat.
The first one.
But we can,
Well, if you have findings that you want to incorporate and adopt those, then I would suggest you do that in the form of your motion.
we did that when we adopted the preliminary plat, those findings, back in August,
Yes.
from when it went through with the planning board, and we had a staff report from
But you're
Alex
making a
Ogle.
motion, to adopt the final plat, not a preliminary plat. So if you want to incorporate those same findings, if there's been no changes, then my suggestion is that you incorporate those findings in this current motion.
Yeah, motion to amend.
Yeah.
The previous motion. Well, I guess we can base it on, that we're adopting.
That staff report.
Yeah.
So can you read all that? Because you have that.
Let's see.
Want the paper copy?
No, I got it here. Thank you very much. I move to approve the Madison County Planning Department Subdivision report number EPP 2101 on North 40 Phase 6 Subdivision and PUD with, that was prepared on July 22nd, 2021. It was staff report prepared by Alex Ogle, and the findings of fact that were determined by the Madison County Planning Board. And with the conditions of approval, numbers 1 through 19, with the amendment that was previously adopted on August 25th, 2021.
Second. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, call the vote. Lisa?
Aye.
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 I think we have to pull back the first one we voted on officially, or do we just include that with that? Ginger? It's essentially the same thing, I think.
I think we're okay. Jim? We're okay with a second motion, correct?
That would seem to have a bit more detail. Yes, I think that would be okay. I have a question though. Christy Ranson, she's on the go-to-meeting. Is she participating tonight or is she just viewing?
She's here.
She's
I'm
right
here.
here. She's there. Yeah.
Oh, you are on the go-to meeting.
Oh,
The school board is all
okay.
organized.
Somebody else has got her name up there. I wasn't seeing the full room there.
Okay.
Sorry, James.
So you're there.
Okay, let's-
Okay. Thank
Let's go
you.
ahead and move on. No problem. Resolution 563-2021, review, discussion, and vote on resolution setting application fees for annexation requests. I'll go ahead and read this one, it's a short one. Resolution to change annexation fees for the town of Ennis, Montana, whereas the Ennis Town Commission did a review of annexation fees for the town of Ennis, Montana at a scheduled meeting of the commission on November 3rd, 2021, and whereas the Ennis Town Commission found the current annexation fees are not adequate to cover the associated cost of review and preparation when an application for annexation is submitted. Whereas, once an application is submitted, work begins on processing the annexation request, so the fees submitted at the time of application are non-refundable. Now therefore be resolved that on November 18, 2021, the scheduled meeting of the Ennis Town Commission, non-refundable application fees for annexation shall be set at base fee of $500 plus $100 per acre of the property of which application has been made for annexation. Annexation requests under an acre will be rounded up to 1 acre. Annexation requests over an acre containing a partial acre shall be rounded up to the next acre.
I move to approve resolution 563-2021, a resolution to change annexation fees for the town of Ennis, Montana.
Second.
Okay, discussion? No discussion, we'll go ahead and call to vote. Corey?
Aye.
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 Excuse me a moment there. You called for discussion, but I don't think you called for any public comment.
Okay, thanks, James. Any public comment on the 563-2021? Sorry, guys. Okay, vote stands. Okay, let's move on to resolution 564-2021. And as we go, or before we go into this, there's a letter from the town employees that you guys all should have here. Has everyone had a chance to read that as we go into? Okay, so resolution 564-2021, a resolution to change the fiscal year 2021-22 budget to increase library personnel wages and withholdings. Whereas the Ennis Town Commission reviewed proposed increases in library personnel wages and determined said personnel shall receive hourly wage increases as follows: librarian from 21 to 22, youth librarian 17 to 19, adult librarian 13 to 17, public service librarian 1167 to $16. Whereas the town commission identified cash reserve funds to cover the additional wage and withholding expenses. Now therefore be it resolved, the library fund spending authority shall increase in wages $14,903.20 and $1,341.29 for wage withholdings, and the funds to cover said increases shall come from cash reserves.
Is that the cash reserves of the library or the town library?
So we need a call motion before we discuss.
I move to approve resolution 564-2021, a resolution to change the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget to increase library personnel wages and withholdings.
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
Is it public discussion?
Not yet, we'll call for it instead. Thank you. Keep it in.
So I guess the question that was brought up in the letter, does it make sense to do an assessment of everyone's wages for the town?
I feel like when we did public works, COVID hadn't happened yet. And this wasn't even discussed or brought up. But after COVID happened and all of America's wages went up, we should address all. This was just brought up because they have, Karen, you would have got a 7% raise next year too, right? Or you guys, it was just this year. How are they catching up after that?
This year, library employees are consistent with the town structure.
Yeah.
Whatever that is moving forward, it is consistent from year to year with the rest of the town, whether it be 1%, 2%, 3%, 2% is, I think, the general usual. Yes. No, I think this is they've worked on closing the gap for several years in some very small increments. And then this year is the year to meet them with the rest of the budget, or the rest of to close that gap.
No, like
they've
not
tried
after this, but before we did this, you guys got the 7.5%, right? And next year you would have got it too before.
If this didn't happen.
If this didn't happen.
It would have been,
I think the answer is yes, but I'm not following. I'm not exactly sure.
You would have got another 7.5
So
next year, your
you would have,
employees,
if this,
to keep breaking.
so if this, what is proposed right here, hadn't happened,
Okay,
was
so
not
next
proposed
year, we would
if-
continue to try to close
close
that
the
gap.
Yes,
It might not have been 7.5, but it would have been something
Correct.
more.
correct. And town employees traditionally get a 3%.
For the cost of living.
Yeah, cost of living. So. Well, and I think some of, we did public works, that was before COVID. There were other departments. And I think once the, they can take it department by department, resolutions can be done fairly simply to change the budget. So if they want to do next administration and next zoning and then police department and stuff like that, you can take it department by department. So.
I have a question. And you're referring to the town's pay structure. And I don't understand what you mean by that.
So,
Because currently the town really doesn't have a structured
so I guess we can also,
pay scale.
so comparatively, the town pay structure would be the entry level that employees start.
We don't have that on the books.
So most recently, what dollar amount were employees started?
Okay, now I understand.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Sorry about that.
And even with that, we had discussed at one time, not hiring a zoning administrator and hiring a part-time person at 15 an hour. So all this is just all over the place.
That's just it. It is all over the place.
That's, yeah.
And I think a lot of hours is, you know, it was that your long-term and employees, that's one of the concerns is have no consideration.
Well, I think it was going by department and not doing that. And I think there is, I mean, in longevity and how that longevity is paid out is through benefits, that type of thing as well. So that is where, you know, you accumulate paid time off, retirement as well. So it's not just the hourly wage that is considered in the longevity.
And a large factor here is also employee
Retirement doesn't
retention.
change.
I'm sorry.
Say that
I
again.
said, your retirement doesn't change. It doesn't, I mean, you gain retirement over the years.
Yeah.
But there's no increase in the amount that goes into retirement.
Sure.
On a monthly or annual basis.
Yeah.
The youth librarian has worked there for 2 years, 2+ years, right?
Yeah, I think it's only fair to consider the other departments too.
We talked about that at the last meeting too, right?
And-
I suggested reviews with some kind of raise, you know, you can't just,
Well, and I think that's where you can do a budget amendment on the, or another resolution, you know, when those, I think weren't the job descriptions, didn't you guys send those out and those are coming back? I think that's a perfect time to do those as well. So,
because it's a national thing, it's not just an Ennis thing. And I think in order to keep employees, you do have to look at this and look at wages. I know it's gonna also empty our bank account too.
but I think this year with having the
Increase in taxable value, but
the increase in taxable value this year,
we're still shut down.
I think that we are, that was $133,000. So this is about 10%.
That's not what our increase was, I don't.
No, I
No,
don't think
but-
so, no.
As
But
I
it-
explained last time, mills went up substantially, but our ability to levy mills, the number of mills we can levy went down.
Because of the
So we
increase.
didn't have a huge increase. Because we were able to levy less mills than last year. So the town really is not gaining a lot as far as mills, mill money.
We did,
But, well, it's the number of mills, but the value of the mill went up.
Correct. The value of a mill went up, but the number of mills that we could levy went down.
Sure.
we did also change business license amounts, zoning,
You have not.
yet.
Well,
Yeah.
that was, I think that was going, so that will help offset those costs as well going into the
So-
next phase. Or the next
The zoning will help offset with charging appropriately and stuff. So there will be more money coming in next year.
But we don't know where it's going to be going out at this time either. As far as what we're gonna have as, if we're gonna have to bring in additional professional help. I mean, all you can do, a budget is your best guess of what you need for the year.
So back to the cash reserves, that's not the library's money, that is the town's cash reserve.
It's the library cash reserves. It belongs to the town, but it's money we have accrued from savings through the budget. Does that make sense?
So it's not coming out of general, it's coming out of library reserve.
Which belongs to the general. I mean, it's kind of a same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
same kitty, so to speak. But
What's the total in their reserves?
well, at the end of the year, I would have to go back and look at what their cash reserves were at the end of last fiscal year. This year, they were slated to have 19,000 in cash reserves at the end of this fiscal year.
So I have
Three?
2,000 left in there.
Any public comment?
sorry.
I think you need to look at the whole town, not just the library. The library is equally as important as your town employees are, and you can't afford to lose employees in this environment. We can't import people to live here. They can't afford to live here. So we need to take care of the people who actually work in our town, who live here, I think as a whole. And I think before you approve the library, you need to look at the whole town and not the library alone. Because if you do the library alone, then you're going to slide your other employees in, and feelings are going to get hurt.
2 years ago, we did substantial raises to Public Works to hire people because they were so low.
Right.
And we didn't look at anybody else. We didn't do anything else. And we went off of comparing to other towns and stuff and raised it to try to get people because we were short-staffed.
Significant amount.
Huge.
Well, I'm just saying, just from our perspective looking in, it looks like you're sliding the rest of the town just for the library. And I appreciate that, Christine. And, that was unknown at the moment, but I'm just saying, I think if you look at the whole town, it would sell better, I think, to your employees.
Well, and we did not have, we were having Public Works issues, definitely retaining employees at that point. And Kelly was announcing his retirement, and we were like, and we haven't arguably heard any complaints from the library,
Well, and that's just it.
Sure.
It's always been okay. But in this environment, this department also deserves a fair look.
Sure, no, absolutely.
And if they've been slighted, then they absolutely do, but I think you have to include everybody. Whether you give everybody the same amount of a raise, I just think it just looks better to include all your employees.
Well, and there are some departments where there was a shift of an employee to a position that paid $15 an hour, but because of their longevity, they get paid $24 an hour for that position. So that longevity did transfer over to
I don't make 24.
or whatever.
I wish I did.
Yeah, or whatever. It was more than what was currently paid in that position, right? So, and that's because of your longevity, right? Yeah, because of the
It's
time.
because of our policy, because when we have a position open, you have to advertise internally first.
Yeah.
I applied for it, so I got the poop.
Sure.
So even if I'd only been here 6 months, it would have gone internally first, and whether I made 15 or
20. Yeah, but it's also because of our policy, because of the policy that, you can't move internally and then take a pay cut, right?
well, that's
right.
theoretically, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, so that's where your longevity pays off in that regard as well too.
If you want to look at it that way, that's okay.
And we did kind of look at some pay structure when we hired Brittany. Had to figure out what she was gonna get paid.
I think that was, when that position was added to, or I don't know if that was added, or that was a utility.
Yeah, so that kind of sets
hired,
somewhat of a precedent to how you're gonna hire.
But also with, essentially what we have left at that point though of the employees when we're looking at this is Officer Moore. We haven't looked at his.
When I left the meeting last time too, I stated the mayor's salary because it's only $800 a month, and that's ridiculous.
And the commission salary too.
No, I don't need money, but the mayor's salary is a lot of work for a tiny bit of
I don't
money.
disagree with the commission part either, but when we're looking at this,
And
we're
there
talking
could
about the
be, there could
employees.
be in the next year, I mean, there could be, I know that there was a local government review, but it might be, I don't know if you can do that at any time, because it might actually look to be like, maybe the mayor's salary goes down, but maybe there is some kind of city manager or town manager.
I think you said
that capacity.
2024 is a review.
Is that the only time you can do it? Can you do it upon,
No.
take it upon yourself?
You can do it, you can set it up to raise commission and mayor's wages, through an ordinance, but then if it passes, it does not take effect until the next election,
The following election.
following election.
Okay, but if the town for some reason, taxable value go up, you can levy more mills, we're getting more fees from there. we could potentially create even if it, the next council chooses to do so, an executive, can you do that, the town executive or the town manager position? Can you create that position, or is that a change in government style?
No, it's not.
You can create it.
Back to what I was saying, John, Susie, Ginger, and Brittany. So I don't know that we would relook at the public works necessarily where we just did that.
Yeah.
So we would just need to review those 4
So
positions.
it's an administration, zoning, and law enforcement.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we're saying that it's not 100 employees, it's 4 employees that we are looking at. And definitely need to look at.
I think with Kelly, retiring also, you need to look at, who is moving into that position and at what wage your public works director should be at.
Do we not have that set?
No, it is not.
So then with that, then it would be 5, and that's,
Kelly currently makes 26.
29,
29.
29 something.
but Kelly has been with us how long? 40?
12 years approximately.
12 years, 3% raise each year. That's pretty substantial as you start moving into the longevity part of that.
Well, that'll be a discussion, because we'll advertise that internally first, correct? That position. And when do we start advertising for that?
I think aren't you waiting for a written
Written letter.
letter?
So as soon as we have that, then I think we.
Oh, yeah, it's just been like a verbal then.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
it's
not
only
official.
verbal at this point.
Okay.
We announced it in a meeting, but we don't
Exactly.
have it in writing.
Okay, sounds good. So,
So what percentage are you trying to push the librarians up compared to what your city already gets, percentage-wise?
so it's pretty kind of similar. So, like the newest position that we added, which I don't know if it was new, it's wearing multiple hats. I don't actually know Brittany's title. Is it deputy clerk? Yeah, deputy clerk, utility clerk / utility clerk.
Not really.
No,
All in
it's
one.
gonna,
It's kinda all in-
into one.
Okay.
We are collecting, examples of deputy clerk positions because it actually is new. But I want her to be trained a lot into my position.
Sure.
I'm getting up there and I'm not gonna be here forever.
Sure. No, fair enough. So I think
So will we have to hire a utility clerk at some point? Do we need 3 or is it okay with the 2?
At this
The
point.
more people that sign up for email and ACH building will save me time. I think.
So at this point, if we
So I
have,
think the newest hire was $18 an hour.
No, I was just asking, as far as the people that you already have employed, is everybody getting 3%?
Every
Yes,
year.
yeah, yes.
Increasing the library so high that.
No,
It's
this is
outfiltering.
closing the gap. There was a pretty big disparity gap as to what the library's wages were. And they've been slowly trying to close that gap. But typically all the town employees get a 3% cost of living adjustment.
that's the current, and that's the.
Wait, Lori, in this case, I mean, at budget time, the library went from 3 to 7.5% on increases. And then with this resolution, it bumps it up to 16 to 41%
Increase for this year?
Yes.
Whew. Guess I better be a librarian.
Well, I was on the library board for a long time. And we had numerous discussions. And I told them, whatever you want to pay your employees, it's okay as long as it's within your budget. Evidently, I was blindsided.
Well,
I'm sorry, I was. And Lisa knows more about the wages and everything down there than I do, and I was on the board. I was the mushroom there. And I'm through being a mushroom.
It's just watch what you're doing on the outbounds, because I guarantee you, not even the business owners got 41%. So,
It seems like a lot when
That's
you're.
not we're not getting a 41% raise. If that's what you're asking?
that's what I kind of was getting.
in the 1 year, it would go from $11.67 to $16.
That's a big increase.
That is a big increase, but $11.67 an hour is not something you can retain employees with.
No,
No. And that's not what our letter was. We believe that the library should be brought up. But we believe also that we should have all been considered and not just one department.
You guys are gonna have a huge problem, and not that they're not worth that. I agree. You can't pay employees $11.67 and expect them to live in this town. But that is a huge increase, and that percentage is gonna be like deer in the headlights. You're gonna have people very angry over that. So you better be able to have the information to combat that, because that is going to come back and not look good. Unfortunately.
Historically, if you want to come to the library, I can show you year by year how much lower library wages were.
I don't disagree with you at all. I'm just saying, as a town entity, doing that much of a wage increase, you guys you're gonna get hit.
Yeah. Well, I think the hard feelings can go both ways on that there's been library folks that have worked there for several years, and when then a new hire comes in and they get a substantial, so it does go both ways. And I think the town council is committed to looking at each department going forward.
Just be loaded so that you can stop the fire, because that would be destructive. And it's definitely needed for the library. I don't disagree with that.
And I think it goes to say too, that library is the only town entity that has its own fundraising arm.
I know, but then but saying that, though, Lisa, puts the other employees at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you're in a tough spot.
It's a tough spot. So.
Okay, any other discussion from the commission?
But does it not sound like it's in agreement that the wage below $15 an hour need to be adjusted to a livable wage? I think that was when the last employee I knew here in town that was making that wage was Nikki from the ambulance. Was it Nikki? Or no, who was the head of the ambulance? Pat. Was making $15 an hour, and that was several years ago that I was like, that's really not enough. But are these two positions part-time positions? And they can pay in and get a portion of their healthcare paid for.
They do get it, but they pay half of it.
Okay.
And whoever heard of a part-timer getting health insurance? Usually it's 40 hours a week or more.
It's becoming more and more common.
Well, I mean, they're paying for it, but you know, if you take what they're getting back for it, and being covered by insurance, that's a lot of money.
But you have to keep in mind, and whether we like this or not, we're moving into a new world of employment in general, and this is becoming more and more common. Lower hours worked with the benefits that come in, and that's what the employees really dictate a lot of how that's going to work, because if they won't work, you're going to have to become more flexible. But just unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, it's the way of the world, and it's coming, and we need to be moving with the trends that way.
Can Ennis afford the trend, or do we disband?
That's a good question.
The boss ain't the boss anymore, John.
Well, I mean, you're talking possibly a manager, you're gonna pay $40,000-$50,000 a year to have a manager then.
I agree with that, but let's stick to the library. Okay, any other commission discussion with this resolution? Okay, call.
Okay. Just a reminder, okay, after discussion, that the motion on the floor is to adopt it as written.
That means it comes from their funds, not the city's.
Yeah, as this is. That's what the motion that you're voting on.
And may I ask one more question? I'm sorry, but, and I'm gonna pose this to Nikki. I meant, Nikki, you coming on as a new commissioner, are you going to be amenable to looking at other department wages?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, we're gonna have a changing of the guard.
I had a conversation with Nikki Haas about it too, and she feels, yeah, I think we're all on board to continue this. It's not gonna end here. And I asked Blake after last meeting to do like a job review and leave something for Nikki Haas to go off of for the other departments. So this should carry over. Tony said he would help Blake some with just short, quick job
We actually
reviews.
have one that we were looking at 3 different ones and we found one that we liked. We're bouncing.
Which I think that we pass on to the next ones or start trying to do some of it by December.
Okay, now.
Mary, need to comment?
Sure.
Okay. I'm obviously a new employee and I did sign this and I just want to tell you guys why. My concern was that John Moore was hounded on how he was going to pay for the additional half-time person, Matt, to get hired.
Not half-time, he's full-time.
Yes, but there was already half-time in the budget.
Yeah.
He was hounded to get a mill levy to pay for that position. And there has been no question on where the library is going to get the money going forward. Lisa, you used the word perpetuity a million times regarding John's wage for the police department, but there's been no discussion on the perpetuity of wages for the library. The wages can go up, but how are you going to pay for it? I am concerned why that hasn't been asked.
So
why that's not a concern.
I think we have talked about that actually. If you look at the multi-year actuals that were presented at fiscal, this year, I reduced the library budget by $12,000, $8,000 at the very last minute. So that money could be shifted into wages, which left more in the cash reserve, the library cash reserve. That money is created by fundraising.
So is the 19,000, and maybe this is a question for you, I don't know who knows this. Is that a year over year, you have 19,000 left?
And
Or,
so
then of course that would cover it.
yeah,
But is that just savings?
and Brittany, I expect our revenue to increase. And over the next, I have employees that our employee structure may change also.
But where does the revenue come from? And that's where I'm wondering.
So let me back up again. So for example, the $8,000 that I cut from the town budget was fundraised. Those expenses are now incurred by the Friends of the Library so that we could shift more of our actual budget into wages.
Right.
That is our business plan moving forward.
So the cash reserves shouldn't be needed then?
They are needed at this time. And
For
those
this
cash
year.
reserves were created by being fiscally responsible year after year. That's how those cash reserves were built.
Right, and there's enough there to use for this year, but next year it's $16,000 total every year. Plus you guys will continue to get raises. You know, as a town employee, you'll get the 3%.
As more expenses are shifted to fundraising and higher mill value from the county and the town, those funds will be increased. And I have discussed this with our library board, your friend, sorry. Lucy is on the friends of the library, not the
Before
board.
the fifties, up there.
Yeah.
Up there on the screen.
And we can, and I know that Mr. Baycroft might not agree with me, but our other board members that are online can attest to this plan.
Well, and there was concern of how much pressure is being put on fundraising, but then you're putting more on them by shifting this $8,000.
And that was our choice. That was our choice.
Okay. I just remember at the last meeting, it seemed like a contentious, like, oh, we already require the Friends to raise this much money, and now,
That has
I'm
nothing to
raising
do with
more.
our current budget. Okay, thank you for asking. That's a good question.
Okay, any other questions from anyone?
So on our last minutes, it says Kara Kitchen state she has presented the wage increase to each board member, but the vote to pass is not on the agenda until Friday morning. Did it?
Yes. Yes, those should have been dropped off. I can get you a copy if they were not. Thank you. Another good question.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well,
I don't have nothing heavy enough to throw at you right now. Okay, I don't have it with me.
oh, I do.
So what what I'm understanding is it's in the budget, you don't need to increase that good budget, it's already their money. That's what I understand.
It's not in the budget, they're doing a resolution to amend the budget.
To take their money.
To take their money. The money.
To their money to pay them. Just move,
It's a line item adjustment.
Could I see one of the letters that was written? I haven't seen them either.
we didn't see them.
Okay, call the vote. Corey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, let's go on to Resolution 565-2021, review, discussion, and vote on a resolution of intent to annex property into the incorporated limits of the town of Ennis. Okay. Whereas it appears in the best interest of the town of Ennis that there be annexed to the said town certain territory adjacent thereto under the provisions of MCA Title VII, Part 43, annexation of contiguous land by cities and towns, and whereas a petition of annexation of section S04 Township T062 Range R01W lots 4, 5, and 6 with a total of 0.48 plus or minus acres by Pittman and Pittman Investments. Ron Pittman, managing partner, has been submitted. Now therefore be it resolved that it is the intent of the governing body of the town of Ennis and of the municipality that the territory described by hereby incorporated by reference is as is fully set forth herein be annexed to the town of Ennis. And
This is your town attorney. I'm going to ask what exactly the process is that you're following on this. It sounds to me that it's not a resolution of intent. It sounds almost as if you were annexing the property by this resolution.
Jim, it says that it,
oh, I missed a line or the thing. Sorry, let me read this last part. Sorry, this is be it further resolved.
I have a copy of it. And so again, I've read it and it appears to be as if the town is annexing this property and it's not a resolution of intent to set a process in motion to create the annexation.
It's a resolution of intent.
They are, it's saying in here though, Jim, that therefore be it resolved that it is the intent of the governing body.
I guess he's maybe looking for more, and I guess one of my questions was gonna be like, when you annex in, you have to declare, a zoning distinction, and where does that
The
part of
letters
the?
are here if you want to see them from, and Mr. Pippin is actually online. I can
Okay,
see he's out
I
there,
just,
so.
I don't think we've seen the file on the annexation at all. I don't think
I
we've
haven't
ever
seen
seen any supporting documents on that.
Is there any findings of facts or anything like that?
No, I didn't go to the county. This is Susie. Susie handled this all by herself, right?
No.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Ginger let me struggle through it, because she's done it in the past. And, there's actually the submittal requirements, there's a checklist, and they are all in here. There's a letter to the Madison Valley Rural Fire District, the letter of guarantee for Public Works Department, the Special Improvement District waiver of right to protest, and to the Public Works. And I didn't make copies, but I certainly can if that's what you would like.
Do we need to do a resolution for this, or can we just set this for a meeting in December? Because that's how we've done that in the past.
We were trying to follow, and we were following MCA. I mean, this is what was given to me prior, by a prior attorney to use. This resolution of intent. I mean, if laws or something have changed since that time, or if our attorney Greenbaum thinks that they need to change, then I think that's worth a discussion. But this, I guess in my mind, just the way I'm reading it is, you're stating that you intend to annex this property.
Well, without the
Ginger,
information.
I appreciate, no, let me just, if I may, Ginger, I understand that, and I do see that in the language there, but then it goes on to say, be it further resolved that there would be a public hearing on the 9th of December. But when I'm looking at the statute, 7-2-4707, it states that a public hearing on the question would be not less than 30 days and not more than 60 days. This resolution that I'm looking at states that there would be a public hearing on December 9th. And so that's less than 30 days. So in my mind, and I'm just looking at this stuff, I've never actually done an annexation, as a deputy county attorney, as a town attorney. But what I'm reading here is that it appears that the resolution setting the public hearing is not conforming to 7-2-4707, which sets the public hearing must be not less than 30 days and not more than 60 days. And then there are further questions that I have as well regarding the process as to whether there is a, let me scroll down here. The plan. Is there a plan for the extension that shows all of the contents required by 7-2-4732 for the extension of services and the costs and how that's all done? So, number one, I think at first blush, the resolution does not conform to the no less than 30 days public meeting requirement. And I'm not sure if there is a plan or if there's a plan that's being drafted or would be proposed at that public hearing.
So what is your suggestion with this? Is this something that we rewrite and set up for the December meeting after we've met the threshold of time?
Well, the resolution, as I read it right here, does not conform with the public, to set up the public meeting on December 9th, the public hearing on December 9th doesn't meet the notice requirements of the statute. So I would say you could not proceed with this resolution as it is. And you can't modify it tonight because that would not meet public notice requirements as well. So you could draft a new resolution, you could have a special meeting, and then conform it to the statute. That just deals with your noticing requirements. My question that I have for you all is, where in the process is the plan for services? Because there's more to it than just voting and saying, oh, we hereby annex this property.
We
after a
understand.
public meeting.
Yeah, we understand
He's
that.
got the file on the will serve letter from Public Works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was asking for. But what I'm going to, sorry, Jim, you're not, I may be not understanding. Can we, in the December meeting, rewrite this resolution and then set the meeting that way? So we meet the 30-day requirement of public notice.
Sure, you could in December, you could publicly notice a resolution of intent to annex these 3 properties, and then set in that resolution a public hearing on that annexation that meets the public notice requirement of no less than 30 and no more than 60 days for that public
Okay, so
hearing.
then we need it, but then we can also, we haven't seen the information on it yet, so that's another concerning thing that way. And then the commission will have time to review the information.
The December 9th meeting to the January meeting would be over 30 days.
We have to do it by 30 or.
No, it's between 30 and 60.
And 60, thank you.
That's what I'm saying, if we do it December 9th.
But we're just doing a resolution at that point in time, so we need to table this and move this forward.
If
And
we
then
do
do
the
the
resolution December 9th.
Yes.
The January meeting's the 2nd Thursday, the 13th.
So we
that'd
have
be
60
more.
days.
We have 60 days from the time you do it.
We can't do it before 30, but we have to do it before.
That's what she's saying, it's
The
over 30
January meeting.
Yeah, it's
is
over
the
30, but is it over 60? We have 60 to do.
No. December to
Oh, it's
January,
perfect.
it's like 30 some days.
Perfect.
That's what Christy's saying, it's a perfect timeline, so.
Okay.
It'll work, it's over 30 days to the next meeting.
Okay,
So
gotcha,
we can
gotcha. I
schedule the
just
public
misunderstood.
hearing.
We should ask James to give the code again that you were reciting.
72407,
407,
407, 72473, that, I believe that's
72 what?
72407, and 72473. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, and then you also want to look at 7-2-4709, which at that public hearing, a representative of the town would make an explanation of the report required by 7-2-4731. And that report is essentially how the services are going to be extended to these annexed properties.
That they plan on doing it or however it plans on getting done, I'm not following.
Yeah, there's a lot, Christy, there's a lot of detail to it. And again, this is my first go around with this annexation. That's why I'm proceeding cautiously. And I emailed to Ginger and Brittany, selected portions of the annexation statutes. There's also a memo floating around from the Missoula city attorney. I don't know if Lisa Roberts, if you sent that one to me or not, but that's also probably helpful reading. And I could get that to you all as well.
Could I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
So does this property have an existing well?
It's probably south of the Madison.
Right. Septic? Okay.
Is it
Vacant lot.
Vacant, undeveloped.
And is it wholly surrounded by a town parcel or is it?
Yes.
No.
No, there's a road on most sides, Teresa.
But we're not forcibly annexing, he's voluntarily annexing.
Right.
And he does have his own site plan in, that's just not ready yet. Nicole and I were hoping to have them ready to do them both, because she said typically you do the annexation and the zone site at the same time. But she had a family emergency, and so we haven't been able to complete it. So, and that's not Mr. Pittman's spot.
He's okay, I'm waiting on this.
I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
I think we have to, we don't have it right.
Susie,
We have
you
to.
did do a extension of service plan, right? And that's what
Well,
Jamie was
I've
talking
never
about?
done an annexation before, and just like, everything else that I've researched in the past, there's very little guidelines to go off of. Probably the North 40 is the most complete files there is, but some of the simpler ones don't have much. There's just a handwritten letter. So Ginger's just gone off of what information she's had. She's done the best she could do. But I wanted to try to tackle this one. She let me, and then I gave it to her to review.
Have you used the flow chart that is built in with that?
Yes. we
And
did.
then what you might, just as a point of reference for you to go look at is the Riverside. Alex had started working that and had a pretty detailed report as to how that works in the Riverside. You might want to reference that to help with that.
Okay, so, okay. Thank you.
So for right now, we're going to go ahead and table this until the December 9th meeting.
Somebody should address me for that online, so you can hear us.
As far as,
Just to make sure you can hear that we're not doing it, I guess.
Mr. Pippin, are you there? Or can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and forward this on to the December 9th meeting. So we are making sure we're in protocol. We were not within the 30-day window. And on top of that, the council did not have the information to review ahead of time. So this will give them the time to review it. And then we will set this resolution in on the December 9th meeting.
Yeah, I've been following. I understand all that. Just let me know if I need to get them anything further.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're just making sure you understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I
I
ask
did.
a question? Can I ask? So if the council wasn't able to look at this, how come, if it's supposed to be voted on, how come?
It's not technically being voted on. What this is an have the meeting
Oh,
to review it. But it still is helpful for the council to have the information well ahead of it.
Absolutely.
So
So, yeah. Can that be addressed in the future? Having the paper, having what you need to go on the
Well,
agenda?
we thought we did, but obviously not, so, that's what they've done in the past, is the resolution of the intent.
Oh.
And then they post it in the paper, and then they go to the next meeting on the resolution to adopt.
So when would you have given us the information you have, or is this
Well-
all we get?
Probably, I don't know what they've done. I don't know
We've
what-
never done an annexation.
Sorry.
Yeah, we did the grocery store one, but that was a while ago. That was what, 3 or 4 years ago.
2017.
Yeah, and
I don't
I
even
think
think I've
Susie's
done
really,
that
I think she's trying to follow the process and get us all lined out as opposed to the simpler stuff that has been done in the past. So kudos to you for going through that
Yeah.
file and following the checklist and stuff like that. And our apologies, Mr. Pitt and Ben, that you'll have to bear with us with patience, and thank you to James for making sure that we're following the statute correctly.
Yeah, and it's quite a complex process. So after you have your resolution of intent, properly noticing or scheduling, I should say, properly scheduling the public hearing on the order of annexation, then there becomes an ordinance of annexation, which is another process on top of that. And then, there are requirements that have to be included in the contents of the ordinance of annexation. And that's where you get to the actual statement of all the services that are going to be provided and how they will be provided with minimum of at least 5 years into the future. So, it's the kind of thing that it doesn't happen that often, and it is kind of complicated. It's just the nature of legislation. And if it was simpler, it would be easier to follow, but it's not. Let's just put it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
James.
Okay, let's go ahead and move
Can
on.
I ask one more question on that? So their water rights though, is that?
This is stuff that we'll talk about when they
For the bigger
present,
stuff.
when we
Yeah.
come back in here. That's
All
what
right.
Okay, let's move to the text amendment to the zoning code on the setback requirement, chart discussion, and discussion to provide with setback change. And that is the chart that
Yeah, and I think we did do, since we came to the kind of consensus last meeting that we're gonna leave the TMD intact. I think, we can change back, the LCR and CCR to have the footnote 3, which then those items are determined in the T&D agreement for those sections. So I have it pulled up here, which is, so on the LCR, and I can highlight them for you guys too, for you to take a look. So it's in the local commercial residential districts and the core commercial residential districts. All of the items, despite the height, it's called a footnote 3, which then the footnote 3 says all LCR, CCR, and P-I districts shall be designed in accord with the T&D district requirements. So I think we should leave that part alone. And what we should address is the height limits in there. To keep those, we had discussed those being 35 feet. For the LCR, the CCR, the highway commercial, C-I and P-I, that those all be 35, the limit on those. So that gives them, the traditional neighborhood development, that flexibility. So then that way, determining the setbacks on that.
He's already less than that 35. Are we changing that or?
Currently, as our code is currently
This is
written.
the new proposed one. That's where I'm taking you. Okay.
Yeah, so the 35 that's on the proposed would stay.
Okay.
It's just the footnote in the LCR, and I can.
Do we need to get rid of that LCR or?
No, we're gonna keep that. All we're gonna do is instead of, we had placed values in there, we had placed the 1/8 acre and stuff like that. We're just gonna go back to the footnotes. Because since we're not getting, we placed those values in there.
I got it.
Because it references the T&D. Now that we came to the consensus that we should keep the T&D for the time being, those should refer back to the T&D. So, if that's what you guys
I
want.
got that, so we'll get the chart
So the
revamped. I guess
1/8
what
acre and the
we're looking
400
for tonight is, are you ready to proceed with these?
Yes.
I think so.
Our end result is, are you ready to proceed, and we'll start getting them set up for.
Yeah, I think so, because that changes the height, that brings the height down to 35 feet. It reduces the setbacks, and, giving people more freedom to use more of their property. It lessens the burdens on the property owner, but still maintains safe distance. So I think it's a win-win on there. And then, yeah.
And so are we gonna need to write a resolution on this one?
Was that it?
I think that was and the only other text amendments were the additions to the conditional use permit that was proposed by Alex, which
really
was, I can pull that up, text amendments. So, he specifically looked at the conditional use permits. And it's basically adding what the planning board was running into, since they are the ones that reviewed the conditional use permits, is there wasn't enough meat for them to make a good decision. Like, they wanted things like, and these are all the text amendments proposed by Alex Vogel. And I can look up the data. You've got them, okay. So it was things like site suitability, appropriateness of design, which takes into parking scheme, traffic circulation, open space, fencing, screening, lighting, availability of public services and facilities, sewer, water, stormwater, drainage, fire protection, solid waste, pedestrian connectivity in streets, immediate neighborhood impact. And that was excessive traffic, generation, noise, or vibration. So those, I think that gives not only the applicant, but then the planner or the planning board more specificity, and for the applicant to know that what they're looking for as well. So they can address each one of those items.
So, I guess my question is are you prepared to move forward with that as well? Do you want to, or are you going, I mean, you can do it piece by piece.
I think these, well, I don't know how my colleagues feel, but the two pieces of the conditional use permit and then this chart, I think are a good start, yeah.
Good to go?
But do you want those all together, or do you want those two separate?
I think it probably would be two separate resolutions,
Okay.
Since they're in two separate spots in the code, it might be more clear that way.
And there are two separate spots on this too, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, yeah.
We can refer to this, but they're in two separate spots on this too, so we can.
But that's what she was asking.
Yeah,
There was
I
two
think you
separate.
kind of have to do it two separate.
Yeah, I agree, but that's what her question was, so I was just trying to get to that point. So can we have this ready for the December 9th meeting for us to start this process?
You're gonna have a draft.
Yes,
And I think,
because then we gotta go to,
Well, if we can get the draft out to you, get an okay on the review, I mean, you can we can probably set set a public hearing. I think you had discussed that, if I'm remembering right, that you wanted to have public hearings on these.
yeah, because it's an ordinance change, so we need to have the two public hearings, right?
I know. That,
I think
I'm gonna talk to James about that as
Okay.
well, because Alex talked about text amendments.
don't have to go through that entire
Didn't have to go through
process.
that entire process.
That's
so
why
I'll
he
check
was
into
telling
that.
us.
Okay. So,
Yeah, let's make sure we're doing it right though.
Yes, I'll talk to James and
Well,
I may be able to talk to Alex.
I was just thinking while we're talking about this, the map amendments, you might want to start looking at too.
I think that one could be done, yeah.
Those are pretty much ready to go. Christian Trail already came up with the new suggestions for the map amendments.
But we're also going to have boundary adjustments to be done on those maps as well now.
Yeah, I think that's a
And I would encourage you to incorporate all those changes at once if possible.
Well, that's fine too, but goes along with this, I think. Something to consider moving forward with. It's pretty much already done for us. We just have to look at it and approve it. Since they've already gone through it and looked at it and came up with the suggestions on it.
I'll also check regulations on that.
okay.
I'm not sure if that's not like an ordinance process, but I will check into it.
Okay. And we can get an update on that one.
Yeah, because on that map, we can pull out where the other map extended past town limits, we can pull it back in, whatever. And then I have, since we're here and we're on the code here, I have a question. Did Sterling Codifiers sell out to somebody else, or what is the issue?
Yes.
Can we look at, because whatever has sold out, this is terrible.
Yeah, we agree.
And I
Okay.
can't get on it on my phone anymore. I
can't.
used to be able to pull up the code really easy and seem smart, but I can't do it all anymore.
So is that
It's
a
not
possibility
easy.
to look at what other
I
communities
agree.
use besides this code library? 'Cause
Yeah,
It's
Brittany
just
has
now.
been in touch with them
It's
too,
okay.
I mean, on the changes that
heavy.
they have made. I mean, they also took our charter off. Our charter is not,
It's on there now.
it's on there now.
Yeah, I
but-
talked to them, yeah, they added a PDF.
But it's not, yeah, it's just not as user friendly as,
They're very, much less expensive than Sterling.
yeah, well, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Kind of on that one. And I know it was other communities because I've looked at Three Forks and whatever, and they all switched over, so I made that. But yeah, if we can get something that's more usable, I think even Red Lodge just has it in a PDF file, you know, like their town code is not.
Not codified or,
Well,
well, it
not,
might be codified.
but codified, yeah, but not in
Like
the,
a scanned PDF or something.
yeah, and maybe you can,
And you
I think
can
you can
search
search through different words or something
Or
like that.
Control F.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, but this doesn't work for mobile, and I think that is kind of like how a lot of people are looking for it, so if we can figure that back out, that would be great, but it sounds like we're in it, so thank you.
We printed some new ones, or, got some inserts in, and so.
Okay, anything else with that? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the library report.
Do we have Ginger, do you have everything you need for the text
I
amendments?
believe so. If I have questions, I'll be making calls.
Okay, good, thank you.
Hi, again. If you have any questions on my written report, please do so. I neglected to put one item on here, and that is I'm just hoping to capture in the notes for future meetings and the turnover at the first of the year. Commissioner Bancroft has requested to move on from the library board. And so I believe the town, when the town set up the bylaws with the library, there needs to be a commissioner appointed to the library board. And so that's an item for future discussion at some point.
Would that not be jammed into the first meeting in January, as he's done it, and the end of December that way?
Yeah, we'll put it on the RLX radar and as an item that will need to be.
Okay.
And for next month, I'll prepare the bylaws just to make sure we get it right. Okay. Any questions for me? The most exciting thing on here is that the library was selected among a handful for a broadband facelift. Some of the ARPA funds coming down from the state level will pay for cabling and equipment to essentially maybe quadruple our range for broadband and increase our speed to get us up to capacity.
Can you tell how many people use the hotspot, like if the library's not open?
Yes, we can. So we don't run that number daily, but outside so during our closed hours, it's usually, I just ran those numbers last month. It's been a minimum of 12 and then a maximum of 21 during the month of October, during closed hours.
So they're hard.
Is that the right?
Yeah, is it per day? Is that 12 per day?
Or per month?
No, that's per day, logged on per day.
After
And
hours?
this is, that's after hours. And then the number I report is a daily average during business hours.
Okay. I wonder if we can do that for our other hotspots too, to see how well they're doing. Or if they're being utilized.
I'll agree.
Have you reviewed the master plan at all, the proposed master plan? And I guess what are your thoughts on the parking lot, and would that be, so you're having heard that your small landscape project is on track for spring. Just wondering, what are your thoughts with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, my comments, I'm preparing them and I was going to submit them next month more formally. So our outdoor seating project would take away one parking spot.
The first one?
The first one, yeah. And that one is hard to use. It's rarely used because it's so close, you can't back up anyway.
And I think the outdoor seating area is more important.
And then other than that, that's the only parking spot affected. And as far as adding space to the library lot, it's a great idea. I don't know if that's the solution. The spots that are there are currently occupied by our neighbors. There's 5 to 7 spots that are permanently occupied. So you might gain a few more spots, but by putting in lines, a more formal parking lot. But it's pretty well utilized right now. I don't know that it's gonna add as much as needed to compensate, for other areas.
Interesting to see with our added police enforcement, because I know it was brought up by a couple of downtown businesses about, folks that park all day long. And that maybe we go to, even a 3-hour time limit, or I don't know, it'd be interesting to get feedback from business owners, because I know that was one of the things, like people, used to park the night before the 4th of July, now they park, June 29th and stay there all week. And so maybe that's something that the new commission would consider now that there's additional enforcement for that.
Is that something that has to go through MDT or code?
No, we could do that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yep, we could do that.
That's
What easier. Code on parking enforcement or what?
Yeah, so it would just be an ordinance adjustment, whatever areas that you want to hit, whether it be, I think Lionsville Park already has a no overnight. But, there could be other spots, on Main Street, so many hours. And that was a suggestion, I think, by Rob Galentine made that selection. But it's, enforcement is always the issue too, so.
But I didn't read it close enough to see, how much would be added after there. So I'll look at that a little closer.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I haven't brought up to them yet is just different substrates. Somebody brought it up at the preliminary meeting, just, what are we gonna do with the additional wastewaters that are being created because you have no drainage at that point, impermeable surfaces.
Right.
And I'd really like to see, I highly dislike asphalt personally, but, what other substrates we can explore.
Yeah, and I think a more organized effort can be achieved without asphalt, honestly. I mean.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you. I think I'm looking to see, what the added asphalt next door will do for drainage as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's a heat sink too. I worked on the library back when it was being built, and would actually
What was that, not 5? You were out there.
years ago. About that.
But no, like at the state parks, at Bannock State Park, they have a dirt lot, but they actually do line it. And I don't know if they line it with chalk or something.
Or something.
Just something, and of course, they're gonna have to redo it every summer or something, but it does help, because there's a lot of people that park, 10 feet.
Or even
other
those
people.
curb bumper things that they put in front of my shop, something like that to designate a parking spot.
Yeah, because otherwise people just park, 8-10 feet apart.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, anything else for Karen?
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, guys.
Wait a second. Okay, police report.
So we're getting an additional blinking radar sign, new
Yes.
speed sign. Yeah, it'll go right out here. Is that the plan? Is that,
Those will be on every side, because there isn't one on this one yet, right?
No.
was that one part, what, was that a grant through the county, like the last one, or?
No.
It was in his budget.
Yeah,
It was in budget, but I think he might have gotten some had some funds
From MDT or whatever.
for it. I'm not positive. But I
It'd be
know,
good to have.
I know that he did have
It'd
it.
be good to have all 3 entrances consistent.
We need to start working on a few other items that will go with that. Not just the signs, but either the rumble strips or the.
It's on my commission comments.
List.
Looks like Officer Fisher gonna be going to the academy.
Fingers crossed.
In January, instead of what, April?
Yeah,
That's good. That's really good.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill Fortner.
And that's what that was. To go on to Public Works.
I was kind of expecting an update from Officer Moore on what he's doing at the mill levy. Just a status update, but.
Yeah. He's actually got, now that we're saying that, he's got his budget set already for the next year too. Then I'll ask that. Okay, the Public Works report. Got anything to tell us?
I don't have much to add. I will add this. There's 2 guys that are working with me now. I feel like we've learned a lot, come a long ways, and
They're
are
fully staffed.
working on a good system for us, and it's starting to pan out for us.
Are you guys ready for winter? That plow truck we had was
I'm praying for winter.
so old.
Yeah.
You got
We got-
4-wheeler and you got equipment or not?
That's one thing we are gonna lose when Kelly leaves, is that's his 4-wheeler, but. So
Is
if
there-
anybody knows of a good 4-wheeler, let me know.
There's money in roads and
There's plenty.
plenty of money to buy a 4-wheeler. That's what I was going to with the plow
There's
truck.
just not,
The
we
plow
did-
truck is scary.
When you get stuck 3 times in one day.
In front of my shop.
we
Right out
purchased,
So if you
we
need
did
stuff,
get,
let's
we
get
did purchase a plow for the front of the.
one of the better running trucks. Oh, the backhoe. Sweet.
Oh.
It's a nice one to where it's not gonna be plowing people in, it's gonna be, depending on how wet the snow is, it'd be a little more work, but
Sweet.
we do have something else, but don't count all red out, because that's the first thing that starts here every day.
I'm not
I'll-
bashing that truck, I just feel like.
You'll see it more, it'll come around.
I know.
What'd you guys get for the loader, a glass blade?
Yep.
Sweet.
It's big, 10 footer.
That'll help some with stuff.
And we're going to also get a new sander. Just a smaller ones, fit on the back of a pickup, nothing too crazy around town. We don't need a semi around town throwing sand 24 hours a day.
Jim Kelly didn't like, we had, John had found a truck, but they didn't like the spreader on it, so they didn't get it. So they were looking for a new truck to replace that thing. So
we are looking for a new box, dump truck too, yes.
Yeah, the truck we looked at down in Idaho, you couldn't maneuver the plow.
What?
You couldn't turn it.
Yes, so they didn't like the sander on the back of it.
Yeah.
Where were we ever at with, we
What?
had signed that, to help you guys with space out there, we had signed a resolution to
do
a sale.
The auction?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Okay.
Eric is planning to resurrect.
I already,
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't wait.
Most of it doesn't need to be.
It's already planned out in my head.
Well,
I did-
there's
I can't
probably a
wait.
couple, few scrap collectors or
we're doing an
Bighorn
auction, people
sheep
buy other
collectors.
people's crap.
I need to come back there and look.
It's probably
You should go back there and look sometime.
My only concern with that is how are we gonna get rid of it when nobody buys it?
Then we can dump it,
So-
right?
Well, yeah, you'd have to pay the fee.
The junk fee.
There's no fee, is there? I bet the county has a junk.
You can take it up.
I don't know how to
You
get
can take
rid
it
of
up
the
to
sweet
Pacific
root
Metals. If
metals.
it's metal, they'll give you money for that.
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of I don't know what those that bighorn sheep, is that concrete?
No, plastic, isn't it?
That's,
Fiberglass.
I'm surprised I wasn't blown away, to be honest with
And
you.
there's like about a golf cart back there and a couple other items.
Does the golf
There's a
cart run
washing
from it?
machine too, yeah.
There's a washing
There's-
machine?
We have it all. And that's not the only
If we
lot.
didn't purchase that, do we have to auction it off?
I don't believe it's the county property.
So some of that could go.
Just go straight to the dump.
Okay.
You could slowly dump it on your crowd.
It's already happened.
I'd just like to say, doing the utility work, Eric's been great to work with, so very much appreciated that. So thank you.
Awesome.
I've learned a lot from the North 40 project.
Try to be good stewards for him.
You guys have any problems?
Fortunately, he's been the easiest one, but there's a few that have really screwed me. And we need to get this road bond. Susie and I talked about it. We need to sit down and this needs done. I'd like to have it done before December. It needs accomplished. Yeah.
How much more do you need from us? Can't you guys
Well, I
come
think
with what you need?
We were just planning
With Nicole?
on getting together
Okay.
and whoever's writing it and
Okay.
all that, we'd like to sit down one day and bang it out and have this done. 'Cause it's creating problems now.
I'm just pointing out the people that are gonna be.
Okay.
That's a little bit of trouble opening here.
You didn't raise your hand, but yeah, you did.
I don't know crap about it, but I can show it.
Okay, any other public
I'm
works
here for
comments?
What was the UV lamps for? I'm assuming that's.
For the
Treatment.
treatment side, before it's pumped out into the river, it's essentially kills all the bacteria.
Have you ever been down there? You should do a tour.
Sean's ready to take their tests.
They went to school, the fall water school. Both of them are planning before Christmas to take their tests.
Awesome.
And that's for their level 1 and their first.
Their water and sewer they want to be done with. That's 3 tests in all, so.
And that moves those guys up to 19
24.
24.
Once you get both in.
Once they pass the test.
Okay, any other questions there?
Oh, yes, one last thing. Before,
Supposed to be this kind of night.
we got the flagpole done.
Yes.
Since the day I got here, was driving me crazy. Finally got it.
I watched you, I drove
The
by.
light's coming for it, for the top.
Oh, cool.
So it's a little crooked now, but we're gonna pull it, put the light on.
Thank you for your hard work. Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to the zoning report, Susie. What you got for us?
You have my report.
It's not the right answer.
But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
What is 310 West William Street reviewed with applicant project?
It is, 2 additional buildings with 3 residential units in it. It's behind, where Veronica Baker's house was for many
That
years.
old brown house that was full of stuff? Okay.
All the cats were hanging out there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that one.
Okay.
So they want to add,
Yes. And I originally sent that to the county for a CUP and pulled it because, they're gonna use it as, a lodging slash, can't remember the word, lodging, boarding houses. And so basically Airbnb type thing. And so, because the county is really in dire straits right now because they have no one there and they're contracting with Beaverhead County, so their workload is, pretty big, just trying to keep up with their own. So I pulled it because I think it'll fall underneath there. And, so it still has to come to you guys because it's in the TND. So, we'll go through that process. Actually, we're working on it pretty hard.
And do you know when is there another meeting for, the Riverside with the planning board?
Is that
Is
this
that in
one?
December?
It's not in December because, well, I don't, no, it's not in December because they're not having a meeting in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be pushed off until January?
January or February is what they told me today. We have a couple of things over there right now, and they said it would be January or February before they heard them.
So hopefully some stuff will maybe be fixed over there by
She
this
said they're
time.
doing their last interview on Wednesday, and sound like it's a pretty good applicant, could fill, sounds like they'll maybe could fill all their positions when they're done. So that's a positive thing. But they still gotta have some time to, understand the process there too. The North First Street one is this, just a one unit, but it's gonna be similar to the William Street one. And we're not gonna do a CUP there either. We're gonna do the commercial with the T&D overlay.
And where is that?
It's behind the First Interstate Bank back in that.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of his name right now.
David Lyons?
Yes, thank you. That's his name.
And how many units are they
It's just
doing? Oh, okay, okay.
What address?
It
Behind
doesn't-
First Interstate Bank.
Yeah.
He's got
It's
an
gonna be
office and a
North First
house.
Street.
Oh,
There was a house there way back in a long time ago.
When the highway used to go that way, or whatever that
I
street
can't
is
remember her
back
name,
there.
we'll have to talk about that and see what her name was, because she used to be on the council many, many years ago, but I can't think of her name. Give me a minute. No, it's not Jim Brown.
Ruby Ryan.
Was that it?
Is it Ruby's?
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, the house is long been torn down, but anyway.
Okay, any other questions for Susie?
Thank you.
I'm looking at you.
Whatever, it's just, ultimately, it's just the water rights thing, how, I guess, back to annexation. I'm just curious what size of parcel that, it's what they recommend anyways, or they recommended over at Bozeman for any parcel.
Any project, I think that's what Alex had talked about and whatever, it doesn't matter the size of the parcel, if there are any water rights associated with that parcel and they want to annex in, then their water rights get transferred to the town.
Yeah.
It's a non-starter in pretty much all municipalities.
Sure.
And I think it is for you too, if I remember your code.
For you.
For here, yeah, yeah,
So I know we had to do that when we did North 40,
okay,
even though we didn't have any.
yeah.
Are you talking about the Riverside project that's already come up?
Yeah.
That one's got a long ways to go, but
Sure.
that's mostly Cushing Carroll that's working on that one.
Yeah. Okay, I was even thinking that the other property behind the Madison, that you were talking about annexing.
Has the hospital submitted anything else in regards to?
Ginger had just a sheet of paper and that's all they've done so far, but we've been told it's coming, so.
Okay.
I think Alan also knows what's going on with Alex and everything. I think Alan's not pushing it.
Oh.
Maybe.
Well,
Well, the annexation
they
will
said
be
it was gonna be, that they weren't rushing.
Yeah, he's not rushing right now, knowing the current situation a little bit.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, clerk reports?
And you have my written, some of the stuff, and I think Brittany has, we'll probably change the agenda up a little bit, put Brittany on there, because she has a couple of things.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure it's in the minutes and everyone knows that you can now subscribe to news on the website. I asked John to do that and he set that up. So it's right on the homepage. You just put in your name and your email address. It takes a few minutes. You'll get an email that you have to, confirm your email in order to finish the subscription. But anytime any updates are posted on that homepage, the news and events, the agendas, anything like that, then you get an email. We tested it over the last couple weeks and I got notifications anytime something was posted, so works pretty smooth. Yeah, so that's up and running. Better sign up.
I did, but I guess I gotta confirm. I didn't know.
Don't forget to confirm.
I did send it right away.
And then, yeah, today we had a gentleman come in for a business license for a marijuana retail store. And he had rented, or I don't know how far along he was. He had construction started at the old Otter Banks in the Lone Elk Mall, and we had to decline his business license and tell him you cannot have a marijuana dispensary there because it's right next to a daycare, right next to the library. The county ordinance just passed, so just kind of a heads up. Obviously that passed 2 weeks ago, and so it's on our radar to make sure we're following that unless the town changes something.
I think we do need to update the marijuana license because it only addresses medical marijuana. So that would be a
That's
text.
coming fast.
Yeah, it is
January.
January 1st, it goes recreational,
And,
so
yeah.
we should do that on
I
next
think
month.
there might be some changes also in our marijuana ordinance that we have
Yeah,
now due to the changes in state law.
exactly. Yeah, so that needs to be.
I have a
David.
question. Are background checks done on the applicants?
No,
No, but the state does all of that.
Oh, for their
And-
licensing.
Yeah. So they have to do all of that. Similar to a liquor license, we don't do a background check for a liquor license either. So the state's got a timeframe on that. So.
But it is checked on, and we know whether, that's something that they have to
they
say.
have their
Yeah.
state
Along
license.
So you
with-
get
Yeah,
to
it's
see their
fine.
background check.
Well, we get to see their state license, right?
Yes.
So that proves that they have. So to get a Ennis license, they have to show their state license.
So the distance was just for the medical marijuana? Is that why you denied his license, or is it for recreation?
Retail storefront, correct?
It's any marijuana business. So it was a recent county ordinance that was just passed. And
It's 250 feet to a daycare facility, a library,
in a park
and
that
a
has a
public
playground.
and any sort of public park.
So really, in Ennis, there is no place.
Yeah, so if you go to if you go to
Yeah,
Justin
anymore.
Epwall,
I was on the meeting. 'Cause
Yeah.
Virginia City was on the meeting as well with the commissioners about opting out of the county ordinance since we have a town ordinance, like Justin Gatewood and Virginia City was there to try to opt out. They will amend it and we can get out of the county ordinance since we have our own town ordinance. That's something that future commission is gonna have to look at and do at some point. Because right now, the ones that are grandfathered in that are open, but nothing else will ever be able to open once they're gone.
And that's good money,
It's the tax money we're gonna lose. And I think our ordinance states that we can have 3 in city limits.
yeah, which, and then,
Right?
and it's kind of one of those that do you want first come, first serve, and maybe you get a bad actor, that's one of those 3, and then they just get to stay. So it'd be worth a conversation with the new council that you take that limit off, and then the free market decides
Where,
Because if you get someone shady
it can
and they
happen.
have one of three,
Yeah.
But
then
don't we
they're,
already have one in the Lone Elk Mall, I thought?
Yeah,
well,
they're
so
not
it's
open yet, but they are
they're
licensed.
licensed, and that's where it's gonna be interesting with the county and whether the county enforces their ordinance. Because their ordinance says that they have to be open for operation 30 days prior to the ordinance going in effect.
And they're not.
Which is,
He's had a license, so what constitutes open?
Gotcha.
So that's gonna be a
But
question
he's
for the
in the
county.
Lone Elk Mall, and then this was a new one going into Otter Banks, which is in front of that.
Yeah. And then there's
Our
one-
ordinance is 500 yards from the school, right? Or
500
1,000
feet.
feet.
1,000 feet from the school. We don't have the parks, the library, that stuff on our ordinance. That's why
And
they're in
it's in
there.
a zoning and it can only be in commercial parts of our zoning too. See, the other communities, the other communities in the county don't have any zoning. And so this was, I think, the county's ability
To cover subdivisions and Sheridan and Twin, Alder.
Yeah, I think it was, which
We can't
ultimately,
We
are
can't
they
opt
gonna have
out.
to
We
take
can
on
amend out.
full-on zoning?
Oh, we can't amend out of the county?
Yeah, and our
Out of
ordinance,
because we have our own ordinance to cover, so.
so this is definitely stuff that has to be addressed.
I would suggest something like they do with the liquor license. The community has to vote. They have the right to comment. Because I know we had to be in the newspaper for a certain amount of time
To get the liquor license?
to, yeah, basically.
I
as
don't
a person.
remember that. I don't know if I lived here when you bought it. Huh,
As a person, we had to put our names in it, say that we are the ones that were taking over the Long Branch. And we had to wait 2 weeks to make sure nobody made comments, because then they listened to the comments.
So that's a really good recommendation.
It really is, because then if you
Because so if someone's
do background check.
Yeah, or if someone was, they've gotten their background check through wherever, but they were a bad actor in Polson and they come down here, but they're okay with the state, but they were not a great community member, then that is, so that's a
And the
great
best thing
suggestion.
to do is check where they were.
public notice.
Find out
I
how
guess
bad they
what I
were.
would write, public notice.
Yeah, or a public comment period on each new
Notice,
license.
Maybe
Taking
you
a
could
lot
charge
of
them
notes
more for
tonight.
their business license too.
And that was one of the things when we came up with the business license tier, when we talked, was that at the last meeting? Yeah, that there would be a additional charge for those types of businesses, yeah. It was kind of a category type deal.
Okay, anything else for either clerk?
Are you close on cash reconciliation?
Yes. Do we have anybody looking to build in the floodplain? Is Jonathan working on any?
No, he hasn't had, a couple of phone calls and conversations, but nobody asking about building plans.
Okay.
I'm just making sure. Okay, no other comments for clerks? Okay, we'll move on. This is gonna be short and sweet. Follow up because we had actually asked for some street repair bonds and zoning fees, something for us to look at, and we do not have anything for us to look at. Go ahead.
That would be me.
Okay, so we need to work on that, and we need to make sure that that gets forwarded on to the next meeting, because we had asked for that. The business license addition and fees. We were supposed to have something with that, and we don't have, so we need to move that to the next meeting as well. And then the same on the noise ordinance.
So on that, what are we doing? Cause
Yeah.
who's, I mean,
There was really no
What did you
talk
just
of
say?
clear
doing
direction.
multiple business licenses. What are we doing with that? Can't. If I'm supposed to type it up, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to type up.
Did we get,
Decision on what we're doing.
okay, thank you. Did we get the examples from the other towns? Did we ask for that in the meeting? And I don't see those here. It's hard for us to work with out, and because we had asked for an example of something to work with, so we have to have that, so if we
This
did.
is
I
like
think
some
they were
stuff we
discussed
had.
before I started.
Hey, hang on a second, I'm talking, everyone else be quiet. Okay, it's my turn this time. So if we could get that, the example of the other towns, we have something to work with, and we can go ahead and do that.
I thought, for another example, I thought we have Three Forks.
Three Forks.
And
West
Three
Yellowstone.
Forks and West Yellowstone, sorry, that is right here.
Yeah.
West Yellowstone really tears theirs out a lot more than Three Forks does, and we were moving more towards Three Forks because it's easier,
Three Forks
quicker.
is $50 for any business license, no tiers.
Yeah, and I think there was like, take their actual ordinance themselves, not their fee
Which
schedule.
Green Bond has.
Yep, so they're the ordinance itself, and then we can make up our own fee schedule.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Which we.
it would be a hybrid kind of between
West Yellowstone, but not as
Three
expensive.
Forks as the ordinance itself, and then the fee schedule. We wouldn't need as many categories as West Yellowstone, it was more simplified.
We needed that so we could make our adjustments. And then the noise ordinance, we were gonna have a draft proposal, and we need to move that to the 9th meeting as well, because we don't
I think that
have.
was given to, Jim has.
Yeah, it says
Discussion on that.
discussion and review of draft proposal, but we don't have it here, so we can't talk about it. So we need to move that forward to the December 9th meeting and make sure that we have that so we can go over it, please.
Well, and I think we needed clarification on where we wanted that in the ordinance. Do we want it in like a public health and safety chapter, or did you want it, I think where it was being proposed was in the zoning?
Regardless of that, it says in these meeting notes, discussion and review of the draft proposal. We don't have the draft proposal, so we need to get that here in the meeting notes here. It says discussion and review of the draft proposal. If we don't have it, we can't talk about it. So we need to make sure we get that in the December 9th meeting, please. Then my other thing is we will have an IT proposal on the 9th in that meeting. We got the email on Monday or Tuesday for that, and I'd like to have the information, but we will have the IT proposal on the 9th for you guys, so you can see that.
And they're coming, from what I understand. Yes.
Oh, they're coming, not doing it, they're not doing it, IT?
Well, I don't know. I think
Presenting
they're
in
coming.
some fashion, okay.
Yes.
They had said they were gonna book a room.
Oh, okay, then they're showing up.
Okay, now we'll go ahead and move on to commission comments. Let's start with you.
I just kind of want to add to how you were, what you were saying, delegating out the tasks for like agenda items that weren't resolved. Like going forward, we need to make sure like who's going to be taking care of it. What are the action items? What are the deliverables for the next meeting? Because, you know, we've been working on some of this stuff for over a year and it's just keeps dragging on. So
I agree, and that's why I
there
went
should
back
be-
into the notes to make sure that we covered, or got everything at least addressed, so we did follow it, because you made a point last month and it was very legitimate that way.
Right, and then for the new council coming forward, probably a good idea to adopt some sort of, you know, plan for unresolved agenda items.
Or at least list them out to pass on to the new council. The stuff we had worked on or
Stuff
discussed
we've been
or
working
stuff
on
we
that
brought
never
up.
was finished.
I don't know if I have it all in my brain.
I had everything that we had from our November meeting there, well noted. You have anything else? Thank you. Christie?
The school bond passed. I'm on the school bond committee. I worked with the school and all that. School did bond, the school board did pass the bond, resolution, how it's written or
Bond
whatever,
language.
so, yeah, bond language. So it is going to bond. There will be information out all over. Interviewed the commissioners last night, or applicants for county commissioner last night. The commissioners will appoint the new commissioner next Tuesday.
And is that off your guys' recommendation?
Yeah, but I think it's ultimately up to them, and they might have already picked. I heard that there was conversations already today, but they can't really appoint until next Tuesday.
Okay.
There is, the county commissioners are hosting a free training, December 1st from 4 to 8 at the Alder Fire Hall. RSVP to Lori Bynum. If anybody wants more information on that, I have a flyer.
Is that for elected officials or what is that for?
I think it's for anybody on boards.
Oh, okay, they've done that in the past, the board training, if you wanna learn how.
More effective in your local board service, board leadership training. I think it's open to anybody. She told me it was open to anybody. It did get emailed, I think, to you guys, but we didn't get passed on, so I'm passing it on.
Can I add one thing to yours while you're talking about that to keep this on your radar? Dan Clark, you had asked for on December 9th, had booked up, so we need to make sure and.
It's January 11th now, right? Is that the right
Is
date?
that-
I
Okay.
emailed that out to
And-
everybody.
Just to add to that.
Okay. The school board at their last meeting talked about doing away with WebEx now that COVID's less, people can go in person. I think, and I'm not positive on this, but what I've heard is that the county commissioners did away with the WebEx and it will end January 1st. I don't know if this is something that we want to discuss or talk about or bring to a vote with the commissioners. I'm just bringing it up because other boards have done this. It's an idea, thought for the future. And the other thing that I would like to do, Kelly and I had a conversation. Now I'm going to have a conversation with you, and we've had the conversation about lights. There's money in streets to put lights at that end, Willie's end of town. It is a temporary, permanent fix before rumble strips, before stuff. There is money. Let's do lights now. It is winter. This is when the semis fall over. If you can fit that in your schedule, if we can try to focus on getting that accomplished too, because Robin's been fighting for years over that end of town.
Are you
It's
talking
something.
entrance lights?
Street lights, any kind of lights, street
That's what I
lights.
mean, tall street light entrance lights that lights up your.
And we should maybe work with Northwestern Energy, because they, I don't know if you've noticed, in
They
town,
did-
they swapped all those out for
And they
LED.
did new lights and stuff, so I think we have not, she hasn't gotten help from MDT, she hasn't really gotten help from us. I think lights is something we can do to help.
I agree.
I think
that
we
with that,
should-
But we gotta make sure and get the MDT approval. Once we get the MDT approval, I think it's a no-brainer.
Everything's slow working, but it's something I had talked to Kelly about. Just
And
passing
since
it on to
we're
her.
gonna be so versed in annexations, it would be good to annex, there's those two parcels, so you can put the lights out further south. So you can annex in the fishing access, and then across the river from there is a
We
piece
talked
of,
about this at one point too,
a
yeah.
piece of MDT property that you could forcibly annex, or they should, just because they're state agencies, they should annex in pretty easily. Or shouldn't be, they don't pay property taxes anyway, so they should easily annex in, and then you could put those lights further south to give them more. And you could also, I believe with state statute, once the town limit is out there, you can move the 25 to the south side of the bridge then too.
This is stuff that we should start working on, and I'm just bringing it up again.
First better.
I know,
We
that's
have
why.
to do some sort of plan for the MDT before we're gonna.
It's
We'd
an
have to-
encroachment permit with them, which would be, it's fairly simple. That's what John's doing for the speed signs.
It's like what kind of lights, how many?
Yeah, where you want to put them, yeah. How you're gonna
What
maintain
material
them.
you're gonna use, I mean, they can get it just depending on how difficult they want it. So they were doing that with the speed sign coming into town.
Would be-
volunteering.
But I guess the issue would be as to where the power would be coming from. So on that south side of town, is there power poles to pull power to light those?
Yeah, it's work, I'm sorry, it's work, but I think we should try to do something down there for her. It's been talked about for 6 years now, since the first truck did.
The guy that missed the bunny rabbit?
I don't know, which one happened first, was it the berry truck or?
They have big barriers out they just put up. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Who knows, Willie?
Nikki brought up cool things. I had a meeting with Nikki, the next mayor, and she brought up cool things about how the mind transmits and it doesn't get smaller or anything, and neurological and just different. She had great ideas for down there too.
For traffic calming, yeah.
Yeah, for traffic calming. And the other thing, to circle back to wages a little, after the last meeting, Brittany hyped up, I'm gonna look for certifications to get more money. And I love that. And I don't think Ginger can, I don't know what you can zoning wise, but that's how Public Works works, is with their certifications, their money goes up. I like that she had a proactive response.
I will say this too, we also have yearly continuing education credits to keep those licenses. It's not a 5-minute class online that we just go and do on the computer.
No.
Oh, we know there was
all
guys
the
that couldn't
time.
pass that.
There's a lot that couldn't pass that. We know they're not easy to.
We know it takes a lot of work.
Well, the size of the people is making us have to get licenses that we really don't, just the amount of people.
I think it's all good. It's my list anyway.
Okay. Lisa?
Nope, I was just gonna bring up the things that we kind of already discussed about updating the marijuana ordinance that we have on our books with the county, so.
There was, Dan Clark hosted a webinar, and I don't know if it's viewable after. If we could get our hands on it, it was during my work time, I wasn't
Yeah.
able to be on it.
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
he
so
did
those will go.
host a webinar to discuss the marijuana legislation and everything, to help us understand it. So in the next trainings, 2 trainings that I'll go to, maybe we can try to get access to that webinar or something.
See if it all gets blown up because it's all going through the courts right now. Anyway, on top of all of that. Corey?
So I guess to address employee wages, maybe assess some sort of structure, some more structure to it. We do have structure for the Public Works. Maybe get a structure set up for the rest of it. And then I would personally really like a work session with all the new staff coming in to the town.
Elected officials.
Yeah, new elected officials.
Can we even do that before they're sworn in?
They could be present.
Yeah, but without them being sworn in, we can't have an official meeting with them, or can we?
Like Corey said, it would be like a meeting, a work session, so it wouldn't be.
Well, would it be that January 11th?
January 11th, we have a training and a meeting that day. We just switched meeting dates. Is that what you did, Kevin? You did?
January 11th?
I thought you said the meeting was on the 13th.
I don't know where I saw the 11th.
The 11th is a training, that's Tuesday from 10 to 4.
Oh,
And
okay.
the commission meeting is the 13th.
But they could do a work session in December, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they could
that's
have
what-
a session together to, if you're wanting to bring them up to speed on what's going on.
Sure.
It would be a no decision, it would just be your discussion of if they have questions of what.
When's the official day that the council changes and the
So
mayor?
January 1st, right?
January 1, they take.
December 31st.
So it would have to happen before January 1, obviously, what Blake is saying.
The swearing in.
Oh,
I was just making sure that we weren't breaking any rules with
Yeah,
that.
no, but they can be sworn in anytime.
And to have a work session, I don't think technically they need to be sworn in. We just have to publicly
Sure.
notice it and we can sit here and talk.
Just keep it simple.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, so.
I'd like to have red punch there as well.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
Sold.
Okay, move on to claims.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the claims? All vote, John?
Aye.
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 Move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
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 What really, are you just gonna look at Craigslist and stuff? Or?
No.
You just need it.
No.
I've only had 2 carrots.
I'll party you some more.
They
might all be back
truck wise, equipment wise.
Good.
For what you're
How much
looking
would
for.
you charge you? I went and got some from Walmart. I think they maybe go back.
So. Keep you posted on what you do. Yes.
John, what are you gonna do with all your free time?
I really did.
No, communication is absolutely huge.
How's Elizabeth? Good, she just moved in. Oh, she did? Yeah. She's gonna be doing it there. She's still working, okay. Remind me what she's a social worker. The social worker.
You want us to sign a copy?
She's looking for a new job. Yeah. Well, it's hard. How about your son? Well, we do. For all of us, and my sister might say that she I can handle that, but I'm not doing the whole. I can just watch
After having so far behind, we have exactly a year to get everything that we labor-wise, especially on the 2022 legislation to get infrastructure money for the city. So Wayne had a list, and Wayne had scoped all that, so they did a short of it, and I only. I got 30-day observations plus all that. It's gonna be. Yeah, so. That's what Wayne said, we can't afford it. You will need to do this. You haven't done it, I haven't.
Oh, you should put a motion light down there. Well, no, we don't need that.
And we're already behind anyway. Sewer upgrade is 5 years. And unless we're on, we won't get into infrastructure money. But then I also think we gotta do the infrastructure. You have to be charging the appropriate amount. So we can't wait for those water and we can't raise rates. 3 months back. 6 years ago, because we're charging 35%. And that's just shift that. I tell them if they can do December 9th presentation. Talk and then I'm here 110%.
We don't surrender. There are no utilities.
I did a lot of research on historically all over the country.
But it didn't end up getting decided.
I know.
No.
You know.
Well, I actually don't.
Without her.
What's his name? He dates Jessica. fly fishing, they didn't see some fly fishing.
Here.
Oh, he said that.
The gray ones. And
Yes, I know.
Yeah, it's right there. His mom bought that years ago. They just sat there forever. Yeah, it was,
She was talking about some maps that he had copied of all those colleges.
So they actually do do.
She hasn't
When I was
written
in
it.
the U.S. library.
She hasn't written it. That doesn't say, it doesn't say where the easement is, it says she's.
So they actually do use your library. So I mean, I didn't know how the libraries.
Trying to make it. I saw her in the paint store. She kept me.
You know what? She saved money in the library.
Oh, I don't need more sugar. Hey, you want one piece of sugar? Oh, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Enjoy both Oh, yeah. It's kind of a weird.
I keep buying bigger bags to hold my crap.
I know, I get on
Now you've got her feelings.
You wanna go?
I have brought mine. No,
Yeah.
No, it's just Rocky Trail. Good to see you, Saturday.
Well, my mom thought.
Thank you.
We'll see you. Thank you. Ryan, mom thought he did it. Also, 9 years ago. He's a VA. He ain't giving his bullshit to drink now. I want to know if there's money. You don't know what your involved in those things or anything. Well, he finally got full disability and he's an agent Orange County.
Oh, I'm good, I'm fine, thank you.
He's a piece of shit. But he randomly called me today and mom was like, so I told Karen this before. She was like, and then I was like, well, then you can tell these two, okay? So there must be some kind of.
I have this fancy bracelet keeping it together. Finish it off.
Yeah. So maybe he's getting himself. Social Security.
I can't help but glance down my phone.
When I bought it, I'm like.
But I am gonna run it for you.
Yeah,
My brother was, my brother was like, I'll call him. I'm like, wait, 'cause
Don't make it.
We're greedy.
All black.
We're greedy.
But there's no size.
Yeah. And he can.
Yeah.
So leave it alone.
I have to leave it when
And now it's a conversation, you know, sometimes you gotta rest.
You want me to do my purse?
Thank you, my love. I appreciate that.
That's it.
Have a good night.
Whoa, that's crooked, bro.
Crazy. What's up?
Dude, homie.
It works. I walked in, I was gonna turn it down, and I went, oh, and I left it at the bar. Oh, hell yes. And they're, the meeting tomorrow at 1.
Hey, don't forget to confirm your email.
You can't go. Oh, I will.
Why can't it be at 7?
I will, because somebody was giving me grief because you're supposed to be at every meeting, and I said, well, every meeting. No, doing a regular business, but he gave his daughter, who she turned me food, so I went, I didn't know. Guys, I have my workload already.
It's good. He wants to pick.
You know what?
And he wants to do this. And this is all then fine, you guys. You know, everyone. I got an email from that yesterday. And my cousin came out about it didn't get approved or. Right. Yes. Find out what you're talking about. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Can you say that?
Right. And I'm not a person like I was asking.
I don't know.
And that money. Just so you give them a raise, not give somebody else a raise. Let us speak. How much is library is like the Buzzman Library, they have.
I'll let you know if you do.
Andrew's like.
Three of us could.
Right, because it's like. I think she here and found out who was paying their LPNs. I was never more money by, I mean, she was making like $13 an hour. No medical, no dental, no eye, and I'm like,
That's what they tell me.
I need to.
I was in Vermont. I was in Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. I'm tired. And if I was having fun, I was definitely in Vermont. I couldn't go eat in the restaurants because of the vaccines. You have to show a card. I'm like,
We had a meeting set up last week.
Either spending money by their own or returning lower wage, but I mean,
But we have.
and it's good to embrace that I get to family or anything or not, you know.
Yeah, because of the cheap,
But
yeah, it's expensive.
They have
And this is like, what do you, I've got the sheets, but I'm still doing that.
New Hampshire's conservative. I called, I was talking to New Hampshire. I was a dealer in Vermont. I said,
I know, I said, I went out to see him because I was now and I'm with her. I copped my lungs 1 month. I was copped.
I don't know, I was noticing that people in Vermont were wearing their masks like it's
But I did the
Car,
right
They
thing.
only have one big project.
But New Hampshire, Massachusetts are smart.
But I wanted to make sure the function wasn't a punch in my lung.
Yeah.
And she
I asked her to go to the business talk
and I was
next week,
like, she didn't crack because
It's
she goes, so you just
very
pull
similar to
muscle.
what it started.
And I
It
said,
was
"I
stunning.
don't have that."
Colors.
Yeah, but I didn't tell this stuff. I'm still doing this now, because it's not that's slowly steps. Slow steps. I know, because one of my bartenders come out and they come here and like talk to me. What happened? Like that? So it's like, oh gosh. And like I was getting ready for the summer out. And then he tells me hard. Every time I get in, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, these are vacations.
My husband. Anyway, no. I'm like,
So yeah, we got some names in mind, we just need to.
Putter car.
Process.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
This woman does.
Oh, see, and but there's different versions, like, I got the first
I was
version
trying
that
to
came
sleep
through.
this morning and I'm like, what's going on?
And I got one, we didn't shop, we didn't move Johnson, right?
I think
Yeah.
the lumberyard
And
one.
all around, if he doesn't want to
Be a
stay.
carrier, and did not have all those things.
Well, you know, he
They're
doesn't have
seniors for.
a agreement.
I remember them constantly poking, especially in the Air Force. You ready? Are you ready to step in? No. I'll be here to support you. I called her, I said, do I need to go to the meeting? She goes, yes.
That's why I put those where I did, in the same with Chris.
Thanks,
She's never
Kristen.
even told me that. So that's why. I
Nikki,
put
talk
them
to you
in there.
soon. Okay, thanks, Ginger. Have a good night.
You know, it's gonna be hard, because it makes me look better.
But I
It
will
makes
tell
me
you
look
something,
better,
everything
and
that
I'm
we've set our
getting
little
it.
hearts on from this
I
group,
followed
that I
up
started
Monday, I
working on
should have
every
to follow up
single
again
thing.
and follow up again.
Every single thing.
And I know they wanna do stuff at that meeting.
But I
And we had
to
46% voter turnout in Ennis, which is historic for this town, it's normally 8 to 10.
Where did you find that information?
What do you mean?
Where did you find that? Because I had a guy ask.
Well, I'll be at school first thing in the morning. If I
Just
can.
like-
The county?
Going, taking the.
Bye, guys. Good night.
Yeah,
But that's historic, so.
Well, people have to, because like,
people have to be.
people want to move out if there's a stoplight coming. Well, guys, guess what? Your town is quadrupled.
No, I understand that, but that's
It's
why.
like the people from California are coming into my bar and they go, oh God, we love this town. I'm like, great. We just moved here. I said, where from? And they'll tell me a big city. And I'm like, why do you like this town? Because it's fun, it's friendly, and everything. But keep your California shit out.
So good for you.
And we
But
don't
I'm
want
gonna-
rules
but
and
I'm gonna
laws.
tell you, 46% of Ennis showed up to. 46%.
It's just phenomenal.
It is.
This doesn't happen anywhere.
Huh?
This doesn't happen.
I think everybody,
We did it.
I think everybody wants to give their voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it started with those steps.
Oh, do I need?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna start on that. I got it.
It's just hard because I have to know a few days ahead so I can have something.
And all I did was make sure you have to pay attention to your taxes, left and right thing, yeah.
No, which side you're on. You betcha, baby.
How are your parents?
All right.
Nick, you